and welcome to CX Today. My name is Shelly, and today I'm once again joined by 6 excellent customer experience analysts to run through all the latest news from the space. Yesterday, I'm delighted to be joined by Zeus Kerravala, the Principal Analyst at ZK Research, Liz Miller, VP and Principal Analyst at Constellation Research, Rebecca Wettemann, CEO and Principal Analyst at Valoir, Shelly Kramer, President and CEO at Kramer and Company, Michael Fauscette, Founder, CEO and Chief Analyst at Arion Research, and finally, Derek Top, Senior Analyst at Opus Research. That was a lot of names, but it's great to have you all join me, and let's get right on into all of the big news from the space. Well, I don't think we're getting through all of it, but here are some of the key headlines that I've seen over the past few weeks. And I want to start with some big news by ServiceNow, which launched AI Experience, which it pledges will help unify an enterprise's AI data and workflows all within a single platform. So this seems like a really big announcement. I don't know, Rebecca, if maybe you could start by giving your first take on the news.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we think about AI, what we're all focused on now is adoption. How do I actually get people to use this productively and get business outcomes? And so I think we're seeing ServiceNow invest in how do I make this highly usable, more intuitive in the flow of work for users. And I think we're seeing everyone look beyond the, what's the LLM, what are the technical pieces of this, to the how do I actually get users using it and get it sticky so it becomes my agent of choice as I start to deploy AI across the organization.
Yeah, I thought what was notable is it addresses cross workflow challenges, right? And so it's designed to try and remove some of the fragmented, silos that companies have. And this is an interesting kind of curse and blessing for the product. Well, I think organizations do need to work on simplifying, cross workflow. A lot of large organizations actually don't work that way, right? They still have a lot of siloed organizations. And so I think this is where the industry needs to go. And I think, in mid-sized organizations, they've already started to bring a lot of those IT silos together. But in large enterprises, I still see those silos existing. And so I think long term, sure, I think a lot of that, those silos will fall, and that's what ServiceNow is trying to do. It's just going to be interesting to see the uptake of this as companies, Cisco has been doing that with their AI canvas and things like that as well. How receptive large organizations will be to having other silos kind of encroach on their existing ones.
Well, I think you touched on something that we're seeing happen across the industry, Zeus, and that's the platformization of AI, right? And and I do think that this is important. And we heard this at WebEx1, and we heard this at SAP Connect, and not bolting AI on, embedding it into the flow of work. Platformization, this single intuitive conversational UI spanning the entire enterprise workflow. I mean, I think that's the name of the game, and that's what organizations are trying to do here. And then, not toggling between tabs for data, being able to rely on a central hub that provides security and governance and monitoring. I think that's something that's really important, and that's a key part of the value prop here of this ServiceNow offering. So you both touched on driving adoption, which I think is key, but I think that we're really seeing this move away from bolting AI on and having it embedded into the flow of work, and then also being role aware. We're seeing that in a huge way. So I think it's not a surprising move here.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a little me too from the standpoint of, okay, now everybody has to have an agentic platform. Ooh, nice dog in the background. But the one thing that I thought jumped out really well, and this is that idea of central monitoring, performance, compliance, transparency, right? This AI control tower offering, as that's actually going to be one of the biggest challenges for a lot of companies as they roll out all these agents across all these different roles, is how do I make sure that when I set these goals, the agents hit the goals? How do I make sure that I meet all my compliance goals? How do I make sure that I can explain the decisions and the actions that the agents take? So that I thought was really interesting. And, other app vendors are moving in that direction, but that's a strong offering, and I think will really help their customers.
But I think we need to just right size something just really quickly on the announcement, right? Control Tower announced, much earlier in the year with knowledge, and I think from the reaction to that, and I think that if we parse this in the sense that ServiceNow is very much a customer driven innovation organization. And I think that the word of the day is adoption, right? And I think that when Control Tower came out, you're absolutely like, this is where you observe things. Like, they were really one of the first to say, hey, we're not going to be able to do this without some type of literal air traffic control solution that's going to say, yes, this was the right one. No, that was the wrong one. You can start to see where that performance parsed out really very ahead of the curve with ServiceNow, of understanding that part of the challenge with workflows, something that they've known for a very, very long time, right? Part of the problem with workflows is if everyone starts creating them, there has to be something that is literally giving the signals back to the enterprise of, this was the one to go, this was the one to stop. And I think Control Tower and that announcement earlier gave that. What I think this announcement does is actually pick up on something that you've all said. And so I think we're all in violent agreement here that if you don't want to use it, if it looks confusing, if it's not role aware, if you log in to try to figure out what you're going to be doing with workflows today, what you're going to be doing with AI, and it looks really bad, you're not going to use it, right? So I think that with this introduction, we're talking very contextually oriented user interface. These are role-aware, functionally focused interfaces where if you are logging in and you are coming from the CRM vein of, the new ServiceNow offering, that's what you're seeing. Those are the recommendations. That is the, hey, are you going to create this today? Or, hey, there's a problem today messaging that's coming up in this interface. So I think that what this really I think what we're going to start to see is a lot of people following ServiceNow's lead in this, in that the interface in your creator, the interface in your canvas, your UI is going to be, wait for it now, created by generative AI. I know that's a shock. I know that's a shocking statement for everyone. But I think we're going to start to see more of this contextually aware, role-aware interface so that people within the organization feel comfortable using it. They know exactly that it's, hey, this is built for me, by me, and it is going to tap into that data that does come from across the enterprise. So I think we're starting to see that this is for the enterprise user. This is to bring context internally so people do adopt it and use it more.
Yeah, part of it too, Liz, they did roll out that AI Data Explorer as part of this too, which lets you not just use their interface, but actually go in and query the data. Yeah.
I mean, we've been like, this group, we've been banging on that for how long?
I realized actually, sorry, I realized I was on mute there, and I was about to say exactly what Zeus just said in terms of that role, and having a gatekeeper, a control tower that would actually mute you is a good way to actually do that. But yeah, and I think Shelly brought that up first in terms of the roles, and I think we are looking at kind of the future of work here in terms of what those roles are, either from an AI agent, obviously from a human agent, and having that kind of orchestration, the platform everyone's talking about is key to that. And they brought up the data explorer, the lens, the routing. There's different types of roles that all of these are going to have. And I think it's kind of, does show that everyone, it's not actually owning the UI, Liz, it's owning the AI. We learn about what Jim and I learned or brought out yesterday.
But if you don't have a UI you want to use, you're never going to use the AI. And that's what we're learning right now.
No, I agree. I totally get it. But I'm just saying in terms of ServiceNow wants to own your AI too. And so provide that whole full AI stack in terms of what that platform is. And that's, with the multiple roles within that, having access to the data. So I think it's a step forward in terms of what that new platform is going to look like.
Another area where I think ServiceNow is really out in front of the other folks, and it's not super clear in this announcement, but it's clear if you look at sort of more broadly what they're doing with Control Tower and Impact, is using the data about how AI is being used to actually help customers understand what value they're getting. Right? So having that dashboard that says you automated this many workflows at a savings of X per workflow to the organization, or Y in terms of productivity or time savings, and actually doing that not as a sort of customer success, here's your quarterly business review, but a dashboard in the software where you're seeing it with your own data. And I think that's an area where we're going to see a lot of folks have to catch up there, because ServiceNow has really said, no, this has got to be part of what customers can see and monitor every day, which means they know exactly where it's being used, exactly where it's not being used, and where they're getting the most value. And I think that's going to be really important moving forward.
And it ties into their overall value proposition, which is not that they want to be better with AI specifically or data even specifically. They're the platform of platforms. They've stated that very clearly and very early on, that ServiceNow is the platform of platforms. And that also means if your platform is AI, guess what they're the platform of? Like this is very much in line with everything that they're doing. And I think that they've realized there's a barrier to adoption. I think, Zeus, you said that earlier, right? The barrier to adoption has been understanding. And if you can't see it, you don't understand it.
Cool. I think lots of really great chat there, but there's a phrase that you've quite a few of you used in terms of role-based agents. And I think this is quite a new term for a lot of people. And it links very nicely in with the next announcement I want to cover, and that is Oracle's new AI-based agents for service, sales, and marketing. And these came out this week, at the week of recording, as SAP also announced some role-based AI agents. But as Oracle went specific on CX, I think maybe let's first consider them. And I don't know, Derek, maybe I'll first come to you on this. Like, what do you make of this? Maybe let's start by what do you make of this new sort of form of role-based agent?
Yeah, well, it does kind of build off it. I mean, in terms of the different roles within service and sales and marketing. I'm just to jump on that. I mean, in terms of content or revenue generation and kind of what's next, that there has to be some value, and I think having we see this true in a lot of organizations that using AI agents from a revenue generation, sales and marketing, even attribution, lead generation, all the different customer journey type of touch points can be where an AI agent can be there. So, and I think that from an agent builder standpoint, I think that's something that's everyone is trying to do. I mean, even OpenAI is doing this. They're trying to get into tooling. So I think this is going to be the arms race right now. We'll see it next week in terms of Dreamforce too, in terms of how Agentforce is out there. So what Oracle does have access to is a lot of data, and really do have the provide the opportunities to get the right use case in the right hands, and with the right tooling that's out there, which we're just, as I'm just describing, customers, enterprises have a lot of choices out there. So Oracle is their choice for a lot of database stuff. So why not have the different types of use cases that are there? And again, just identifying, a lot of those, metrics and key KPIs for each of those, I think is important, but those roles are distinct and those are going to be measured, and having the more specific goals set up for each of those different types of role-based agents is going to be key for Oracle going forward.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting here is just to think about like the explosion of agents. Like we've had a lot of generic agents to date, right? And these specialized agents, right? Some examples had like their agent product fit, or agent product fit, or account product fit agent for marketing, deal advisor agent for sales, triage agent for service, right? We're moving into an era now where we're getting away from these generic agents into these very specific task-based agents. And so that does two things. One is it creates, kind of a smaller, easier to train agent that is good at certain tasks, but not all tasks. But then we have to start thinking about, from a workflow perspective, how these agents actually are going to communicate with one another, because it's going to require more than one in a lot of cases to complete these tasks. And so this whole problem of agent-to-agent communications, I think we're going to, if 2025 is the year that we created all these agents, 2026 will be the year that we have to figure out how to get these things to talk to each other.
No, I was just going to say that this is actually the trend that you're looking at across the agents, right? You saw sourcing originally was horizontal across the platform, mostly custom. Then you see, it's kind of departmental. Oh, this is a marketing agent. And the next step really is specialization. So you've got to go to these much narrower focused agents across multi-agent systems that you coordinate to accomplish the workflow. And as you said that, I think that the day of just opening a generic agent, and that's what I really want, that's not going to happen, right? You're going to see marketplaces with specialty agents. You're going to see platforms that provide, a starting point with specialty agents. doesn't mean they do everything you want. You're still going to have to tailor it or customize it based on your specific process. But to me, that seems like the right way. And as you look through this, Oracle's a great place to find a lot of these specialty agents, because they certainly do have the breadth of application offerings that they can play into each of those different areas and give everybody, their customers a starting point with a specialty agent that does most of what you need for that task.
Yeah, and I think there's two huge selling points here. One is that Oracle's making it incredibly easy for existing customers to use these AI offerings free of charge. I think that's attractive for people. And then that you spoke about pre-built connectors or pre-built, 156 and then some pre-built enterprise connectors as of the mid part of this year, with more coming. I mean, that's attractive across the board.
And I think because this is part of the Fusion suite, and I think it's very specific, right? So Fusion marketing and Fusion sales, where this started was by taking the best of the best that existed across Oracle's very, very broad CX platform and portfolio, which included both B2B, B2C. I mean, we all remember in the history of time just how much Oracle had acquired over a span of like 10 years. They plucked the best of the best, put that in a composable environment, and then set it loose on OCI. It's an incredibly powerful platform. But when you go in, and I think to everyone's point, say, I'm going to create a marketing agent, for most organizations, what people have done has been taking we do it this way because we've had to do it this way processes and automated them. Well, what happens when we take new technology and automate old process? We just get faster, junky, old process. And I think that what we're seeing with these, again, and it goes back to our last conversation and this one, when you start to get specific, when you get functionally aware, but when you actually create in an optimized pattern, you are now creating agents that are very, very focused on, okay, let's look at the quote. I understand that you have CPQs and Fusion sales, but what, you haven't been doing it right this whole time? Here, let me give you the process. And I think that it's very smart, but it's also going to be lightning fast, because when you start to think about those Fusion customers, they are getting this for free, like all AI across Fusion applications. AI is built in. You are not paying more. You don't have to go look at what the token structure is, right? You don't have to go figure out, did I take a seat and turn it into credits? Like that's not a conversation. You're just going in and using it. And what I've heard from a lot of Oracle customers is what they did, right or wrong, was they automated their old processes. You start to turn these on, and it is literally flip the switch, go do it. And your data's there. And especially if you're an OCI customer, this makes the CX platform almost impossible to walk away from.
Yeah. Well, and they also have access to tools, right? Agents need tools to do their job. So if you have them already pre-integrated and set up inside of an environment, they already can use those tools. And so that just gives you a leg up, a faster way to deploy and get value out of it too.
Just jump on what Zeus did in terms of the agent to agent. That is, going to be, and actually Michael was talking about that in terms of that access to data, that access to other agents is going to be what shows the value. There is a trust layer there, security, compliance, like whatever's necessary as you share that data. And since it is already within Oracle, Fusion, or Oracle has access to the same data within their cloud, and so it has, or whatever the application is. It really can, I think, show potential of what agent to agent stuff will be based on the trust layer that already be set up within Oracle. So shows promise there.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I think with agent the difficulty of that and the security issues, Derek, to your point, I think we sort of, the industry kind of ebbs and flows between platform and decentralization, right? And the initial wave of this might drive companies back more to platform and single vendor solutions. And, and then over time, we'll figure out how to do it in a more secure way. But I think in the short term, it certainly gives the advantage to someone like Oracle. And the fact they're doing something free. Yeah. And the fact they're doing something for free is actually amazing. So,
it's interesting too. I think we kind of swing back and forth between believing that vendors should be giving us best practices and ways to do things, and no vendor knows what my business is, and they need to then conform their software to what my exact process is. And I think we're seeing that this swing now with agents, where initially everybody was like, I want to build my own agent because it's going to be just like I want it. And we're realizing that A, it's hard. B, it's unless it's constrained properly, both in terms of data and in terms of workflow, it's very difficult to get them accurate. So I think we're seeing this swing back now where somebody says, no, you know what, perhaps the 1,000 AI engineers at Oracle perhaps know a little bit more than my dev team does about what this should actually look like.
But isn't it funny that this conversation, because Rebecca, I think you're spot on. And isn't it funny that this conversation is happening concurrent to the build versus buy conversation on everything from infrastructure to applications, right? And everyone is out there trying to scream from the rooftops that build is cheaper than buy. And they're forgetting that cheap always isn't great, right? Like, yay, you did it for cheaper and it fell apart and now you can't afford to maintain it. So this build versus buy conversation is creating a whole lot of grist. But what I think is so interesting is having just been around a whole lot of developers, and Zeus, you probably picked up on this, right? When you're around like the folks, we were just at SAP, we were just at IBM. I think that when you're around those folks who are in the sandboxes, who are in the pits all day, they're excited about what they can build. The question is always, where do I start building so that I keep my job and I drive business value back into the organization? Building these things, quite frankly, that's not the exciting thing. It's building the nuanced thing. I mean, we heard from a bank in Croatia that's like, we could have built a bot. We could have built something for customer experience. But instead, what they did was they tried to figure out a bot that they could work off the same corpus of data and have totally different personalities. One personality for the internal, one personality for the external, formal outbound, really informal inbound, working from the same knowledge base, driving that business value of answers. And that difference, that's what they wanted to focus on, not how do I get a voice agent? How do I get, the quote agent?
And it's a really good point, Liz, because it depends a lot on what's on your business card, right? Whether build versus buy. Now, our data says using a platform approach is 16 times faster and 75% more accurate than doing it yourself. Now, there are always going to be people who say, yes, well, I could do it myself. And yeah, you can make a sweater with a sheep and some knitting needles. It doesn't mean you should.
Excellent. Well, I think again there was lots of great conversation. I love how we sort of move between topics. But I'm going to make a very sharp pivot now from AI agents to the voice of the customer space, and talk a little bit about Qualtrics' massive acquisition of Press-Ganey Forsta for $6.75 billion this week. And interestingly, PG Forsta acquired InMoment just a few months ago as well. So this deal brings together three of Gartner's 5 voice of the customer leaders. So it's quite a big deal, and it will be interesting to hear kind of some of your perspectives on what this maybe means for the future of the voice of the customer space. I don't know, Zeus, maybe if you want to give your thoughts on this.
Yeah, and while you pivoted, it's still more of the same, right? It's this whole concept of a platform, and so. Yeah, and so it does bring together 3 of the 5 biggest ones. And so I think this is yet another signal that platform is the way forward. And so we're going to see more and more market consolidation, across the CX space. I think also, in fact, I think this brings them over they might be at $3 billion in revenue now between the 3 companies. So, it creates a pretty big company. I think they've got a lot of deep vertical specialization as well, right? So Qualtrics is strong in healthcare. PG Force has got a big footprint in that space as well. And so, what we talked about in the first 2 ones was platform and specialization. This is doing the same thing, just at a different part of the customer, the customer lifecycle here. So, I think, obviously, what are they going to do with this? They're going to apply AI to all this data and this platform to create some differentiation for them. And so to me, this isn't, this is just a signal to what's to come and, across the CX landscape. We're going to see more and more acquisitions as companies look to consolidate their data under one platform.
Yeah. I mean, I read this and I'm like, okay, it's your move, Medallia, Barrett, and Sprinkler, because I mean, this is definitely a gauntlet thrown, and we're not done seeing acquisitions for sure.
Well, and I think, I mean, the healthcare part of it, I think, is huge. I mean, it really is the deeper industry knowledge and having that access. Even like, I don't know, like I have Kaiser for my own, and I swear I get surveys I don't even want to do these surveys after I do like a simple visit, and it's a kind of very long qualified type of survey too. So the point is, like, and there's also a lot of compliance things involved with that, regulatory, all of the kind of industry knowledge that PG Forsta brings is going to really help Qualtrics and solidify their expertise within that. Obviously, it's a huge market going forward. I do think, the survey companies, and we talked through some of them, need to diversify, right? There is going to be some innovation going forward. It has to be something that's going to bring new revenue, bring new scale and quality like that AI can bring, and also the some of the CCaaS players and the conversation intelligence players, they think they're getting into the voice of the customer space. So there's more competition coming from traditional CX companies that weren't just focused on surveys. So I think that diversification is part of the strategy for Qualtrics, and but really and solidifying it up with the healthcare expertise and customer base.
Well, and to your point, Derek, PG Forsta brings a provider base of like 41,000 clients. I mean, hello, that's attractive.
Yeah, I mean, this is a recipe you see, right, like repeated over and over and over again, right? You see a market fragmented, lots of innovation out in the edges, gets consolidated back into the middle, and you end up with a few really big players that own that space. And Qualtrics, obviously, you could argue making a really good move in that direction. And particularly, Derek, you mentioned this healthcare piece. I think that's big for them. That's a massive vertical. It's very difficult. It's a good moat if you really are good and embedded in that space. So definitely a good source of growth for them, and probably portends some additional movement across other verticals in the near future. So,
yeah, the impact in healthcare too. I was talking to the CIO about this, and he was saying, "Look, everybody talks about AI taking jobs." He goes, "In healthcare, we can't hire people fast enough," and that's been one of the.
And these jobs didn't exist.
Yeah, and I mean, you think, well, how do they do voice of customer now? It's all manual. Or they just don't do it, right? So,
though, I think we say consolidation breeds decline. I think voice of customer is already on the decline, right? Because as I am able to analyze every call, every word, every sentiment of every customer, why the hell am I surveying them anymore? I can get a better understanding in real time of what their actual sentiment is. They're not self-selecting for those that are willing to fill out a survey, and I can monitor this kind of stuff in real time. So I think consolidation is going to continue to happen, but it's going to be more about how do the platform providers have this kind of ongoing pulse of what customers are feeling, what their actual satisfaction is, rather than a separate survey or VOC function.
But that is what makes this acquisition interesting for me, is that it's not about the healthcare stuff. Yes, they're going to dive deep in the industry expertise. They're going to do all those things. And I totally agree. Zeus, what you just said, spot on, right? They can't hire fast enough, but it was never healthcare's priority to hire this fast enough, right? Like you didn't see customer care, employee experience, marketing, anything across CX explode with RFPs for jobs in healthcare, because healthcare is supposed to focus on, wait for it now, healthcare, right? A lot of this stuff was not priority, but it is now, right? It's all manual when they do it. So I totally agree with you. The interesting thing about this acquisition is the in-moment piece. Because if we remember back in May, PG Forsta purchased InMoment. And InMoment has really a very, very sophisticated set of active listening tools that go far beyond, quite frankly, the survey. So the thing that I've always really liked about InMoment is that it wasn't relying on, here's your survey, let me see what my NPS score might be. Oh, golly gee, you would actually recommend the only hospital in your area? What a shock. Like it takes that and it makes these really active listening agents that are very, very good. but it also provides the analytics on the back end. And the thing that I have always been challenged with around a lot of the voice of customer platforms is that they can sure collect it. They can point to where the loyalty is, but having that deep analytics and being able to understand the why behind it has always been missing because they haven't been able to collect that information. Yes, you can get sentiment, they're pissed off, but getting to the why and getting to that context is really something that was quite unique about the in-moment offering. I think the issue here, to be very frank about Qualtrics, believe me, and hey, I say this as a former power user of the platform in my previous lifetime, right? They don't integrate quickly. Clarabridge. They're still waiting. They bought that sucker in what? 2020, 2021? Right, 21. I think we're still waiting for that integration. So I worry a little bit about how massive the PG Forsta portfolio is. It is a large portfolio of lots of different offerings. Where are we going with that? I think that Qualtrics is really going to have to look at itself and be very, very honest about what's happening here and just how important integration is going to be on this. No one's going to buy this as 17 different pieces.
Well, and exactly. I was going to jump on that, Liz, because it's the merging of these different components and identifying which one works, which one to sunset, and you have customers using this stuff right now. And so as you bring in the new capabilities through PG Forster and others, that's going to be the challenge. And yes, since they've already shown some level of integration challenges, dragging your feet, what is going to be the main capabilities and the features that are going to lead the new product forward? So, I'm curious to see where it goes from here.
Excellent. Well, I think that was a wonderful discussion. And as you all said, it's going to be fascinating to see how the VOC space continues moving forward, especially if you also have, the conversational intelligence platforms coming into play, BI platforms. It's a fascinating space to watch. But I think for now, maybe that's a great place to end today's discussion. I want to thank all of our wonderful analysts for joining me and everybody for watching too. Bye for now.
Before we go, I want to thank Charlie for being our host on these.
Yes.
This is your last show with us. And so a little round of applause for Charlie.
Yes, thank you, Charlie.
The best host ever, Charlie. We'll miss you.